We are all so busy these days, and we're always looking for helpful tips and advice on how to find a better work-life balance. We all have to earn a living and pay the bills, but are you doing enough to look after yourself and your health at the same time? Now, many of us prioritise careers and work, and we're slaving over our computers and mobiles all the time. But does this make you cut corners on your diet, exercise or sleep? I'm Dr. Ben Sinclair, and welcome to Health versus Wealth with Dr. Ben. Our guests share their life experiences and we discuss their challenges in their health and their wealth. I hope their experiences will help you with your life and health. In this episode, I'm delighted to be talking to an old friend from the Birmingham business community who runs one of the longest established charities, Free at Last. He is dedicated to improving the lives of children and the young people of Nechells, a deprived area of Birmingham. So, John, thank you so much for coming on the show. I'm delighted to be talking to you today. How long have you worked at Free at Last?
I've worked at Free at Last for its entirety, as I started it in 1999 with my wife Jan, and we've been going for 24 years, celebrating our 25th next year.
Amazing. Now, I think you started as a youth worker when you were about 17. Is that right?
That's correct. Yes, 17. So a very long time ago.
Fantastic. And what's really interesting about you and why I was really keen to speak to you was that you're actually both a networker, you're generating funds, you're also inputting into the lives of many people in this area, and you're creating social capital for the area that needs it most in Birmingham and using your skills as a director of this charity. So it's so good to be talking to you about this today. On Health versus Wealth with Dr. Ben. So tell me a bit more about what does Free at Last do?
So the aim of Free at Last is to improve the lives of the children and young people in our community. It's quite a small community in terms of geography. It is 16,500 people, but the child poverty rates are around 53%. So everything that is associated with disadvantage happens in our community. And so our focus is on the children and helping to give them a much better, improved outlook on life, both from a physical, mental, spiritual perspective, to help them to live life to the full, whatever that means for them and for us.
And I know that you love adventures and that you roped me into climbing the 3 peaks with you. For charity. So we're going to be climbing the National 3 Peaks in September together. I'm going to try and keep up with John, and we'll hopefully both get there in one piece. I know you're raising funds for a particular project that you've been working on. Can you tell us a little bit about that and why it's important to the people of Nechells?
Yes, for many years we've been looking at how we can improve a variety of different areas of life. And there's a startling statistic that the life expectancy of those who live in our community is 10 years less than 6 train stops away in the north of Birmingham. And the main reason for that is air pollution. So we have always done a wide variety of residentials, getting kids out and getting whole families out. We're off to Bournemouth this weekend camping with 35 people.
Fantastic.
And so it's very much about getting out of a concrete jungle into the great outdoors and experiencing that. But in order to do that, to have an impact on the children's life expectancy and to increase their life expectancy, because we can't do anything about the air pollution in the city, we want to buy our own space, a field, woodland, where we can consistently take them and put fresh air in the lungs.
Wow, what a great idea. And as a country boy, I wholeheartedly applaud that, because I fortunately grew up in a rural area, but it's so exciting thinking that people who might have pollution could actually have access to those green spaces and all the health benefits that brings. And that's why I'm thoroughly supporting you. How would you describe, your health? You're firing on all cylinders, you're hitting the ground running, you're really trying to make a difference to the health and well-being of the people around you. What kind of impact has that had over the years on your health, and what does that look like?
I I feel very blessed that that my health has been quite a constant, good health. I know that the pollution is affecting me because I live here in the same community, but not. I haven't had to go to the doctor for asthma, whereas most of our children have.
Right.
But I do recognise that there is an impact which will probably come out later in life. But I've never been stopped doing the things I love, particularly climbing mountains, even when I do injure myself on them. So as a whole, then I felt well and sustained to be able to do my work. It doesn't mean that I haven't gone through times of mental stress. Or physical stress,
because it must be quite stressful, looking after people who have such enormous challenges in their lives. I don't doubt.
There's been lots of times throughout the years, and unfortunately in a community like ours there are so many different things that trap people, and when they invite us to be involved in their life, then we support them through the issues that they allow us to be involved with, and that's anything from domestic violence, both seeing that through parents and children, whether that is through abuse, trafficking, involvement in criminal activity or gangs, but then there's also the struggles of getting through the education system, and parents dealing with authority, with things that they struggle to know how to get through the policies, or through employment and not having the skills, or not having the dream, or not having the hope, or not having the confidence or the direction to be able to move forward into improving their finances, their health as well, with opportunities to play badminton, or to do mountain biking, or explore things outside of their environment which they are familiar with. So yeah, it's anything. One of the things that we do here is we absorb people's pain. If we were to take that and then to have it as our own pain, then we would really struggle with that. So we have to have those mechanisms as a therapist would, to be able to absorb their pain but not soak it in.
Interesting. And that's going to have an effect on, I imagine, some of your mental gymnastics and what you do with your downtime. And I know you love climbing up mountains, and that's why we're doing the 3 Peaks. I also know you have a very strong sense of purpose, and you're determined. Tell us a bit about the story about your ankle in Kilimanjaro, just to demonstrate, what your passion is and what you do.
So 4 years ago, we were there was 8 of us climbing Kilimanjaro. 4 of us were fundraising for Free at Last, the other 4 for other charities, but they were all part of our business network group. So we started out, and I'd done all of the work on bringing us together. Got to the first camp and had a horrendous migraine, thinking it was altitude, but we realised it was just a release of the stress of the fact that we've got to the first camp and everything was working. So
that really affected you physically. You got a migraine.
Yes. Yeah. So I took half an altitude tablet. Didn't want to carry on taking them because realised actually this wasn't, and I soon was okay. My body does. I like to say that stress is a choice, and I choose not to be stressed. I like pressure.
Okay.
But stress, then I don't worry. I don't let things.
Yeah.
Unless I know I've got the information, unless I know what's happening that I can respond to, then I choose not to worry about anything.
Yeah.
But that's the psychological aspect of it. But sometimes my body will come out with headaches because my body's stressed.
Yeah. So that stress is going somewhere, and it's turning into a physical pain. So it's still coming out in some way. That's really interesting.
Yeah. So then on the start of day 3, we were doing 8 days. Then I got excited because I heard some water.
Okay.
And there's a river somewhere on the mountain, and so I jumped on a rock, and as I stepped off, I didn't realise how far it was, and I went over my ankle. Heard the 2 snaps, thought I'd broken it, but I actually tore 2 ligaments and 2 tendons.
That's got to hurt.
It did hurt, yes, but I carried on. So I had 3 thoughts as soon as it happened. The first of all is I can't let these people down. So I have that sense of still I'm the leader, the person who they are dependent on. Secondly, my sponsor, I was wearing a T-shirt with his recently deceased father-in-law's face on, and that was to send him the picture at the top, so I knew how to get to the top. And thirdly, when I was 19, I went over on the same ankle, and I had 6 weeks off work.
Wow.
But when I got back, everybody at work was quite cross with me because somebody else had done exactly the same thing, and he had 48 hours off.
Interesting.
My doctor told me to elevate. His doctor told him to walk on it. So straight away it was, well, I'm going to walk on it,
so
because I know that's an option.
You wanted to walk on it.
And so I did. I walked on it, spent another 6 days walking on it to get up to the top and back down again. And then 3 flights home caused a DVT and a wide variety of swelling. So
you had a blood clot on your leg, a life-threatening condition as a result of all this swelling. And what happened? Did you recover from that?
So the DVT went within a couple of months, but the ongoing challenges of the ankle continue for years on.
So we'll have to be nursing you up that mountain.
You'll be fine.
Good. I can't carry you, I'm afraid. But I'm looking forward to doing this journey with you, John. And I really respect your strong, determined nature. You work a punishing schedule. What does your diary look like? And how many hours do you put in a typical week or month or year?
Yes, my diary is full, and it's always busy. Busy is the term that a lot of us use nowadays, and it's always, can we fit something else in? So yes, it's every day, Monday to Friday, but then it can be a lot of weekends, particularly at this time of year where we have a lot of residentials, taking the kids out to experience something away from the norm. But then it could be days out doing mountain biking with kids, trying to teach them how to become mountain bike instructors, or it's family fishing. So there's always something to do to provide opportunities for people in our community. So yes, there's a lot of hours, but that's because do we necessarily see it as work? It's certainly not 9 to 5. It's when people need us, and it's very tiring. But I do remember one member of staff a few years ago that asked me, John, why do you work so much? And I said to him, you can't eradicate child poverty in 40 hours a week. So if you want to be involved in that, then you need to put a lot more effort in. So yes, we provide those opportunities and that support, and it is more about when people need us rather than planning a time schedule for work. But it's a purpose, it's a passion, it's not a job.
Now, what's interesting that's coming out is you have a strong sense of vocation, doing this for other people. You have strong values driving this, and I find it really fascinating that in that, and I have to confess at this point, John, you're also a patient of mine and not just a friend. And we've talked about the challenge that you have around self-care when you're working so hard to look after other people. And part of that comes down to things like food choices. Tell me a bit about the impact on your health, from always giving out. You mentioned about, dealing with the mental stress, but what's the physical impact of that on your lifestyle?
So the physical impact is really boils down to a phrase that we use for why we are here, why we raised our 4 children in this community, is that if we want to understand the needs of the people we're here to serve, they've got to become our needs. And so through the time, we have had to experience poverty in every area other than a mental attitude towards it. And so that means that we've gone without living in a community where there isn't easy access. There's no supermarket here.
Yeah.
It's very difficult to get healthy food.
So fresh food is not easy to come by.
Very difficult to know what you can and can't eat, particularly when we don't have the time. Eating late, eating at the wrong times, putting food in the oven rather than cooking food is a way that we've grown, and so it's very challenging when you're told about nutrition and about healthy plans, diet plans, and everything comes out that it's just so much information and so much cost and so much preparation that you have to treat that as a priority.
That's so hard,
and it's not a priority.
You've mentioned a couple of physical challenges that seem to have caught up with you on the last couple of mountain challenges that you've had. It's a bit of a controversial question, but do you think you've taken your physical health for granted in the last few years?
I've never thought that, but now I do.
Okay,
so I'll chew over that.
Okay, interesting. Yeah.
So
very interesting.
I get on with it, and I need the challenges. I'm planning the next ones even after the 3 peaks, and they need to be hard. They need to be challenges. The one that we did this year in Chile, trying to climb the highest live volcano, we didn't get there. I was ill. I had tonsillitis. FaceTiming you from Chile to figure out which antibiotics to take, and it meant that I couldn't get past base camp, and I was gutted, and I had to deal with the psychological issues of failure because I got to the top of Kilimanjaro with a smashed foot. So it was really I can do anything, but actually the flu and tonsillitis that stops you breathing at altitude means that you can't do everything.
So your body was letting you down at that point. I
struggled with that.
Yeah.
But it doesn't mean that I won't carry on, because I need the thrill, I suppose, the adrenaline, the reasoning for moving forward to be able to do bigger and harder challenges.
So you're a values-driven guy. You're investing in sort of physical training to get fit, to do challenges, to demonstrate that the kids are worth it, and to demonstrate the value of the work that you're doing and raise money. Would you be willing to try some mental gymnastics with me to work on your mindset so that physical health becomes a higher priority?
Yes, happy to try anything.
Because I think part of the real interesting thing here is that you've got a very strong value set, you've got a strong mindset for physical challenges, but it's the day-to-day that we struggle with. We're not always going up a mountain, and when we've come down the mountain, that's when the reality sets in. That's when we reach for the burger or whatever it is. What's your vice that you struggle not to reach for, John? Cake. I love cake. So what is it? Is it chocolate? What is it? Coffee cake? What sort of cake do you love?
It's practically most cakes.
Most cakes, anything cake. But, you just love cake.
Preference is a cheesecake, and then moving on to fruit cakes and cream cakes. And
love it. So any cake you just love. In your kind of knowledge, where would cake fit in terms of sort of healthy intake of food?
So I imagine that the majority of cake I choose is fairly high in sugar and fat, and not the good fat either. And I know that if I'm doing lots of other things, then in proportion to everything else, then it should be okay, but
in balance,
not in the amount that I would like to consume.
And increasingly, I think you are in the prime of life. You're working hard, and yet your lifestyle choices have been catching up with you, and you've actually developed sort of borderline type 2 diabetes.
Yes, so I had a blood test end of last year, and that's what it came up with.
Wow, how did you feel about that?
Not very good. My daughter has been type 1 diabetic for a few years. And I've seen the struggle and the thought of being the same but through lifestyle choice. Hers isn't a lifestyle choice. Hers is type 1. Then that was just I don't want to be there. I like to be in control, and I don't like anything that I'm not in control of, and having an illness, particularly one of choice, type 2,
it's got out of control. So what I'd love to do is in this first, hopefully of many chats that we have, because we'd love to get you back on the show to find out how things are getting on in future. What I'd love to do is concentrate on the mindset. Now, you already have a strong mindset for physical challenges. We've met, the challenge that you've got now with your physical body. You've got an injury you're carrying. You've also got this borderline type 2 diabetes, so that causes problems with sugar. You've got to think about what you're eating. There's a lot of stuff there. I want to take you back to, your sort of residual personality. And, can you tell us briefly about when you were younger and perhaps what motivates you to try and be this adventure guy? And we'll then work out, where we're going to build this stronger mindset around food choices and lifestyle.
I think that the love for outdoors has come from the opportunities that my parents gave me, particularly through the church, and they used to run the youth work, and
Fantastic.
So it was always taking kids away.
Yeah.
So I had that experience, and they, although they were working class parents and didn't have much money, they spent their money on holidays to give us those experiences. So being able to value the time away from the norm is where it's grown, and there's been a variety of particular instances that has helped to lead me to do more. The biggest one was back in 2000, where we took a group of young people to Scotland to try and start a youth forum, but there was some adventurous activities at the same time.
Brilliant.
And I thought, I've done these loads, and sat in a canoe and fell out, couldn't climb up this rock face that was 6 foot off the ground. First time on a mountain bike, because I'd usually used road bikes.
Interesting.
And fell off a bridge. And
so you were quite challenged at that point.
And I was awful. And I was thinking, I'll do this every year on residentials.
Yeah.
Why am I so bad? And I recognise that there's no progression.
Okay.
And so what we will always giving the kids that we take on residentials is the introductory lesson.
So what I'm picking up is that you have a strong sense of adventure. You want to be what I would call adventure fit.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
And I think that's a very powerful statement that you could tell yourself. Rather than worrying too much about the stuff you can't do, sometimes we talk about things in the negative, and that's not very motivating. It demotivates us. You end up feeling guilty because you've got this type 2 diabetes, and you think, I've done this to myself. What can I do? I've got to do something different. Your values are that you're helping other people avoid this, and yet you've ended up getting it. What a rotten bag that is. And so what we need to do is focus away from the negative and give you actually a mission statement, something positive to work towards. You look at the top of a mountain, you go, I want to be at the top of that, whatever. So what we need to do is build a statement for you. And what I would suggest that we do this next month is that you work this statement into your life and you tell it to yourself. We know positive self-talk is really powerful. So if you had a positive statement that we build right now that says something like, John is a well-balanced guy. He looks after other people because he believes they're worth it, and he looks after himself so that he can be adventure fit. Now, it might be that's a couple of different things in one go, but actually the keys there is, your values, your spiritual values, you look after other people, they're worth it. The physical is adventure fit. And the mental bit that I think maybe has been lacking is the self-care bit, where you choose to look after yourself, to look after other people. But you have to believe that you're worth it too. Do you believe you're worth it?
I do, yeah.
So I think then we're at a great opportunity here for you to take action. Are you willing to try a bit of an experiment this next month?
Yes.
So what I'd love you to do is, do you think you could commit to sitting down and talking to yourself for 5 minutes?
Yes. Yeah.
Could you do it every day?
We'll try, certainly.
Okay. Even if you do this every other day or a couple of times a week, it's going to strengthen your focus. So what we need to do is to come up with this phrase that helps you to focus that determination, not on the negatives, but there's something in there that's also a self-worth statement. Okay, so, and I often talk about people being a work in progress. Now, you mentioned to me when we talked about, when you were younger, you weren't the sporty guy, and that was actually a sort of a balance of your identity. Do you feel like you are the sporty guy now, or is there an element of you that's still got that old identity that you want to shake off?
I suppose the definition of sporty guy, of somebody who's running around all the time, good at football and rugby and those are the things that I weren't, generally always picked last in school.
Okay, yeah.
And so the sport is more extreme sport now. So
you test yourself extremely to prove the point.
Yeah.
So I think what I'm getting at is you've proved to everybody that you can climb mountains. I think what we need to do is to allow you to be a work in progress as you are naturally aging, to give yourself permission to fail. And I think you learned quite a bit of that when you're up at the Ocos del Salado mountain, when your body let you down. And to input into your physical through a stronger mindset that says, I'm allowed to be a work in progress, so that other people can see that I'm a work in progress. I'm working on this. I don't always succeed. And I truly believe we learn more through failure than through success in that way. So what I'd love to do is just to work with you, and I think we might involve our psychologist in that as well, just to go deeper and to create this really sort of fine mission statement for you. And if you repeat that every day, it tells your subconscious, which is the part of the brain that can believe anything. It believes it's possible. If you keep telling your subconscious this statement, and it resonates well with your values because you've crafted it, we can then actually help that to begin to develop that mindset that actually helps you to self-care whilst achieving your fantastic goals. And I think what we'll find is then the activation energy to do some of those other habits will become easier. I also think you'll recognize the choices that you're making because you'll become more conscious of them. And we talked about cake. I think my next episode will probably be going a bit deeper into nutrition, why we do the things we do. But if we don't get the mindset right, we can forget all the knowledge. And like you said, you might know some things, not others, but actually it's the mindset to know whether you can apply them or not, and when, that makes the difference. So I'm really excited to see how you get on, and I'm not here to beat you with a big stick. I'm your biggest fan. I'm here to encourage you as your co-pilot on this health journey. And as we stomp up those hills, and I'll probably be complaining more than you because I know you're a tough guy. But I think it'd be great to have conversations about this and about other things as we go on to build the sort of strongest possible version of you so that you can do the things that you love to do the most. Yep. Does that sound like something we'd like to do together? Fantastic. So we're going to find out how John's getting on in hopefully future episodes in this series. And I just want to say thank you for coming on today. And will you come back and tell us how you've got on with trying out some of these mental gymnastics?
Yes, of course. It's been a pleasure.
So that's it for today. I hope my guest and I have helped you meet some of your health versus wealth challenges. Now, to hear more from me, Dr. Ben, why not subscribe on your usual podcast platform? And if you like my advice or you'd like to be a guest on the show, you can email me on podcast@drfinlays.co.uk. Anyway, I hope to see you again, but for now, it's goodbye.